And we have Fareed now. It's good to get you on today, Fareed, because I guess we missed the boat yesterday. Tell us about what's the latest on dealing with cardiovascular.
Yeah, so one of the things that I like to talk about a lot is the importance of healthy circulation if you have conditions like diabetes. And both myself and my dad are diabetic, have been for a long time. And diabetes is essentially at war with your circulatory system, damaging blood vessels and having an impact on the heart. And cardiovascular really works to counteract some of the damage that diabetes does. And an astonishing number of Americans have diabetes. I think the number is around close to 30 million.
Yeah, in fact, the study, it's probably higher than that, actually. We're borderline diabetic. We got the study from UCLA about 2 months ago that's now quoting that 69% of adult males and females in California are either borderline or frank diabetic. 69, almost 70.
Yeah,
pretty amazing.
It's a crazy number.
Right. Now, it's interesting. I put up some of my videos on various places, and I had a kind of an offhand comment by someone, and I want to respond to this because it may be how people kind of view things. Like how people are either we call lumpers or splitters. And this gentleman saw a video. I'm not sure because I have videos and audio all over the place. And we had a talk about cardiovascular. And he made the comment, I quote, "I like Mr. DEAGLE." He didn't refer to me as Dr. DEAGLE. But I would lump, he said, cardiovascular with all the other crap that is sold by Alex Jones. Now, I want people to understand, I'm a functional medicine doctor, MD doctor, graduated in 1977, took 3-year residency and have been in practice since 1980, and now retired, and I study more now than I ever did when I was in practice. I still teach in the Academy of Anti-Aging Environmental Advancement of Medicine. There's not really an equivalency there. In fact, on the internet or on radio or television, there's nobody equivalent to me anywhere in the world with a regular radio or TV show talking about functional medicine. I'm it. And so when I could select any product from any place, I did not invent cardiovascular. It was developed by Sam Abraham, who was one of the few people that was a pharmacognosist trained in Germany who actually developed this program. Now, there are a number of knockoffs, and I don't need to mention those specific knockoffs, but anybody else who claims they have a cardiovascular formula is literally trying to copy incorrectly the wrong part of the plant, the wrong certification, that every batch has the right number of biomolecules, and also doesn't have the certification of countries like Canada and Australia that are the most difficult in the world. So when I hear people lumping like that, I want them to understand that person, unfortunately, like most people in the Western world, is at very high risk of cardiovascular disease, whether they're diabetic or borderline, and a lot more people are borderline that don't realize it. Anybody who is hypertensive is basically a pre-diabetic. Do you know that? Everyone who's either overweight or has dyslipidemia, you don't have to be overweight, you just have a lipid disorder. They're a pre-diabetic. Anybody with elevated stress hormones, like cortisol and glucagon and insulin, is a pre-diabetic. Anybody with low body temperature, despite not having previous thyroiditis due to say, adenovirus, is a pre-diabetic. Anybody with vascular disease with calcification is a pre-diabetic. So if you include those criteria in a broad range and a broad net, it's an awful lot of people.
Yeah, I'm there. I hear a Skype call coming in.
Yeah, I have a Skype calling in. I don't know who's calling me. Not me. Okay, please continue. Yeah, somebody trying to call in, yeah. So please continue. Yeah, somebody else probably thought they were on the program today. Continue. So, yeah,
well, what would technology be without glitches, right?
So that when we talk about the particular components, we have the right part of the plant. Every batch is tested for heavy metals and for the actual presence of the right biomolecule to maintain cardiovascular health, endothelial wall health, prevent calcification, prevent oxidation of cholesterol or fatty acids, improve nitric oxide and antioxidant protection with superoxide dismutase, ability to improve the capacity of blood vessels to have the peristaltic wave that moves the blood flow around, because your heart only starts the primary wave. The secondary wave of your blood vessels moves most of the blood away from your heart, and all of the movement of blood back to your heart is by the blood vessels, the veins and venules. And people should understand that the heart only pumps blood to the lung fields. It doesn't pump it back to the heart. And that's dependent on the health of your blood vessels. And if your vessels aren't healthy, you get hypertension. Eventually you get things like heart failure. You develop microcirculatory problems to your brain and solid organs. And you get with unopposed calcium activity forming calcium plaque, which is the most accurate way of measuring of heart disease, a high-speed CT scan. It's better than the treadmill stress test or pharmacological stress test or a plain EKG. EKG picks up 14%, stress test 78%, pharmacological stress maybe about 84%, and a calcium score, high calcium score 95 to 98% will pick up the presence of cardiovascular disease. And when you start taking cardiovasc, those scores return toward normal again. That's how important it is.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So that's pretty amazing, isn't it?
It is. It's definitely a different way of looking at things.
Some of the components that are present in cardiovascular explain why it's so valuable.
Sure. So cardiovasc, as you mentioned, a formula developed by my dad. 7 powerful herbs designed to work together or synergistically to improve heart health and cardiac function and circulation, most importantly. So the first of these is hawthorn, and we use a hawthorn leaf and flower extract in the capsules, and we test for a marker compound called Vitexin using HPLC methodology.
Now, it's, of course, a mitochondrial tonic, and 2/3 to 3/4 of the dry weight of your heart and blood vessel wall, the media, is mitochondria. So you want a cardiotonic, and that's what this is, Vitexin, and it measures every batch of drops and capsules going out, and they're, by the way, equivalent. No other company has equivalency between the capsules and the drops. And ours has every batch tested to make sure the right amount of Vitexin is present.
Yeah. So then we have an aged garlic extract.
That has 2 effects. It's a natural angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor. It also kills nanobacteria that are necessary with free iron and heavy metals to oxidize cholesterol and fatty acids to form plaque. And when macrophages, which are big eater cells in Latin, eat the unstable cholesterol, 9-nornyl hydroxycholesterol, or oxidized trans fatty acids, they form foam cells, which are the nidus to form plaque. And calcium, platelet, and fibrin form layer upon layer like a badly made Haitian tar paper shack. And that's what breaks off and forms either a clot or an embolus that shoots down the artery, blocks the artery off, so you have a heart attack or a stroke. So basically, we're dealing with step-by-step of the processes to stop vascular calcification, inflammation, and embolization of a plaque that eventually will shoot down the artery or blow up and block off an artery. Next one.
So we've got cayenne and ginkgo biloba.
The cayenne, of course, is a vasodilator, and the ginkgo biloba will also thin the blood and improve microcirculation. So very, very powerful at doing both of those activities. Next.
The bilberry.
There's lots of antioxidants, but the most dialyzable that goes through tissues deeper than any that we know is bilberry, which is the antioxidant present in the, bilberries, or some people call them bilberry or blueberry. The bilberry extract is a super high concentration of it, so it dialyzes. They used bilberry, for example, in World War I to prevent pilots because they didn't have UV blocking glass from losing their ability to have night sight, and to improve visual acuity because it dialyzes across the membranes in the eye as well. So it protects your endothelial wall from oxidative stress. So it's very, very good that way.
Yeah. And so then we have the milk thistle and the valerian root.
Milk thistle helps to detox the liver from pretty well every toxin. It amplifies detoxification. And toxins, of course, are one of the things that interferes with the blood vessel wall health. And the valerian is a rebalancer of the autonomic nervous system because when people get cardiovascular disease, they get an upregulation of their fight or flight autonomic reactions that increases the release of adrenaline and noradrenaline, and oxidative stress on the arteries is increased. So it helps to modulate the autonomic nervous system to calm it down. So a very important part of the whole process of reducing blood pressure, because that's why you'll see a lot of conventional doctors give beta blockers or central alpha blockers like clonidine, and these are very dangerous drugs. The beta blockers will make you fat if you're male, fat, bald, stupid, and impotent. And if you take clonidine, you can get depression, hair loss, and permanent drops in your IQ. You want to take natural things like our cardiovasc, and you can do a test called an endopat or endothelics test. And if you want to prove your microcirculation is improving perfusion besides just dropping blood pressure, you can do these tests at a cardiologist. I can refer you to, and they'll cost, whether you have insurance or not, between $150 to $220 roughly. It's a non-invasive test that can be done in their doctor's office, and it'll tell you if your perfusion is normal. You can also do a QRMA test, and the QRMA analysis will tell if you're getting vascular spasm and some of the factors related to cardiovascular stress and disease. But cardiovascular illness is increasing at an enormous rate in our society, along with diabetes and peripheral neuropathy, and they're all tied together, aren't they?
Exactly.
So tell some of the testimonials you've heard from people that have taken it, because I've had people who have had peripheral leg blockages that were scheduled for surgery within 6 months, and their leg is normal. I've had people that have had stents put in place because they had blocked arteries, and they were going to do a bypass, and they go back and do a repeat test, and the arteries are clear. I've had people with reduced kidney function, and we give them cardiovasc, but we add other things for their kidney. And there's a number of things that help the blood vessels: ellagic acid, omega supreme krill, vein away diosmin, and ultrathymine B1. And those are all very important to add to the cardiovasc if you have, say, reduced renal function. We also have peptides that can regenerate your heart muscle, your kidneys, your brain, each one specifically for target organs, developed by the Russian Academy of Sciences and the Russian space agencies. And I have other anti-aging technologies such as mild hyperbaric oxygen, basically a ketogenic diet, and other factors, and other nutraceuticals we can add. But the core for vascular health perfusion is to use the amazing effects of cardiovascular. Have you had anybody else that's made any interesting statements about cardiovascular you found were worthwhile repeating?
Well, yeah, we have people talking about how it helps them with their blood pressure quite a bit actually, and one of the logical consequences when you're improving your blood flow and circulation to the periphery, it tends to lower your blood pressure automatically without putting a strain on the heart.
Right, but also improves things like impotence. If people have impotence if they're male, or if they've got circulatory cramps in their legs because they've got microcirculation problems, or they're diabetic or have vascular disease, a lot of time too, if people have cognitive problems, they may actually have, we call the Swiss cheese circulatory effect in their brain. You can do a SPECT blood flow scan and say, oh my gosh, large areas of your brain aren't being properly perfused. You start giving cardiovasc, and they say my memory's waking up because they're feeding the blood flow to their hippocampus and the areas of the cortex that make them remember. There's a wide range of effects that we didn't expect right away. Not only things like weekend warrior syndrome where someone's exercising, but improved brain function, liver function, kidney function, peripheral leg cramp stop, sports recovery is improved, and the range of people that have illness or what we call perfusion problems, even if they have what we call normal-ish blood pressure, they may still have perfusion problems despite the fact that they have even a normal or quasi-normal blood pressure range. It doesn't exclude the fact you may have a perfusion issue even if your blood pressure appears to be relatively normal. And that's where cardiovascular work in sort of person that they think is normal, but their perfusion isn't ideal, not necessarily throughout their whole body, but in particular target tissues like an area of their heart or the right leg. It turns out that 42% of males over age 40 have at least one blocked artery, up to 90% plus, in at least one major artery to their lower leg below the knee. Interesting, eh? That's a pretty high percentage.
It is, yes.
They don't know. They may think they have a knee problem, and what they got is a circulatory problem because your dental artery is blocked 93%. And they may be getting leg cramps not just because of low magnesium, but because they've got poor perfusion and their tissues are growing hypoxic and acidotic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was actually a study out in the Journal of Rheumatology, I think about 8 years ago, that shows that there's a direct link between vascular deficiency and osteoarthritis.
Right, well, osteo is linked to it because when you have osteo, you have elevated levels of cytokines in the joint and peroxynitrate radical. And when you improve microcirculation, the peroxynitrate radical and the cytokine levels drop, so you're right. Basically, osteoarthritis is an epiphenomena of prediabetes. So the person may not have elevated blood sugars, but their blood insulin's high, their cytokine levels in their joints are high, and the levels of peroxynitrate in their joint, if you take the joint fluid out and analyze it, is high. So osteoarthritis patients all have a prediabetic, hyperinsulinemic, cytokine elevated state that will respond to improving microcirculation. Interesting, hey?
It is, yeah.
So it's not just like, oh, my blood vessels are being shot. No, your joints are too, and your brain, and your liver, and basically everything. So, fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, for you and your dad, of course, being a pharmacognosist as well, and he's retired, he must realize that conquering this battle over microcirculation is probably preserving his health and his limbs, literally, not losing toes or feet or below knee amputations, but also improving brain circulation, heart circulation, and making sure kidney function doesn't deteriorate. Because if you're diabetic, you want to be on this, and of course I mentioned the other four: ultrathymine B1, Vein-A, ellagic acid, and omega supreme krill to maintain function. But you've got to be on cardiovasc, and there's no knockoffs. I've got to get a kick out of people. It's like this gentleman that did this email lump and thought it was equivalent to the garbage that's put up by Alex Jones or anybody else out there that's not a functional medicine doctor. They need to realize this is a vastly evolving science. Even protocols they put up 6 months or a year ago, I'm constantly updating. For example, in diabetics, I also add and regularly put in Nutritrala and cell detox glutathione. They did recently a study just published a few weeks ago that in mice controlling oxidative stress, which is things that are already in the cardiovascular, reduce not only vascular resistance and vasospasm, but also protect against insulin resistance. So we use Nutritrala and cell detox glutathione, selenium cruciferate, and omega, and the antioxidant fatty acids in omega supreme krill as well as omega supreme. And you have to have a cardiovascular in the first place in the body to maintain control and health of your endothelial wall, health of your heart muscle, and your blood vessel muscular wall, and preventing formation of plaque and calcified plaque, especially in vasospasm. So thank you, Fareed. We'll have you back on soon. If you are concerned about your circulation in any way, get your medical report. If you want a consultation, a quick consultation, anybody, you don't have to be a customer. You can email, and I will email you back specifically, start a protocol. If it looks like your problem is really complex, I may recommend a consultation. Even if you need repeat upgrades to your protocol, I'll give you those quick repeats and make recommendations to you. If we find that we need to review medical records and other things, as I say, we'll probably recommend a consult and filling in the consultation functional medicine history form, which is under the more information section of the consultation. What's amazing is our regular customers have access to the wellness conditions. I've also am in the process of making hundreds of videos, which I'll do over the summer, on the wellness protocols, and they'll be over in my pay-per-view video channel. The Vimeo channel has documentation information such as the report about 3 weeks ago from Roger Stone regarding Donald Trump. It also has other documentary information that are pay-per-view as well regarding Fukushima Daiichi and others. But I think we will find these services valuable because we're now posting up on all the RSS feeds for all the podcasts on the planet and pretty well all the video casts as well. And those just started the last few weeks, so hopefully that service will be available and people will find it, provide information they can't get elsewhere. I'm in the process of finalizing an ebook on Fukushima Daiichi and also writing a number of position papers on everything from policies that need to be dealt with in this 2016 election, such as we talked with my son Matthew, who will be co-authoring a paper dealing with the real solution to the problem of terrorism. the issues of healthcare and how we can solve that, issues such as immigration and border control, issues such as healthcare policy and genetically modified foods and glyphosate. I'm trying to get Jeffrey Smith back on the program with an updated new film he's produced. GMO foods are extremely toxic to your genetics. Should never eat GMO foods, and especially no GMO foods plus glyphosate, which attaches to the gliadin fraction of wheat gluten and makes the allergenic molecules disrupt your genetics and cause autoimmune diseases, increase cytokine levels, cause BOF or brain on fire, and produce gut problems like leaky gut syndrome. You can determine leaky gut with 3 different types of tests. The QRMA test will pick it up pretty quickly. Quantitative resonant magnetic analysis. We also have the lactulose mannitol sugar test available through Genova Labs. Measures 2 different sugars with a urine test. Easy to do at home. And then the third test is what's called a zonulin test done at Dunwoody Labs. So we can determine if you have food allergies using blood tests. I far prefer the blood test of food allergies rather than, and if you don't have to go to a LabCorp question, you have a mobile blood tech, I can help you order the specific test you need to do through lab testing facilities. And you can do all this right from your own kitchen. And your consultation, I say, that you can become, in a sense, mentored as your own Dr. U. So I recommend the Dr. U book, which includes the vast scope of functional medicine, includes everything from allopathic medicine, surgery, pathology, toxicology, allergy, herbology, chiropractic. It includes everything, energy medicine, and imaging studies, etc., so that we can truly find out what's going on in your body that goes well beyond symptoms. The problem is symptom-based medicine, which is how allopathic medicine and most other medicines are done, including even herbology, doesn't identify problems that are long before pathology arises, and it doesn't address illness in its nascent form before it becomes a full flower. So here at NutriMedical, again, when I teach the Academy of Anti-Aging, Environmental Advancement of Medicine, we approach the body as a living pathology and an interactive epigenetic control system. And if we can find out what's out of balance, we can bring it back into balance before disease happens, or we can avert or change the underlying conditions that promote disease. Back in just a moment, and we will be talking with one of our favorite guests about a major issue that needs to be dealt with, and we'll talk about solutions to the program. So coming up in hour number 3, Tim Alexander, major news updates of what's going on. Janet Yellen could be meeting Congress today. 2 days from now is the Brexit. Lots of things happening, and lots of revelations of both Hillary Rodham and Clinton. Ask for your questions on health and wellness. It was 800-313-9443. And I'm just going to go over some of the protocols we have until we track down our guest today. One of the questions we have is people have muscle twitching or spasms. And the first thing I recommend is we have our best magnesium for absorption that's not going to upset your stomach or cause looseness of bowels is magnesium glycinate. And the best one for the central nervous system is a magnesium called Brain Mag, which is magnesium L-threonate and magnesium glycinate. Now, the magnesium glycinate I recommend, at least if you're getting muscle spasms or twitching, 4 capsules twice a day. The Brain Mag, at least 1 or 2 scoops with Calm Mind, which is our magnesium L-threonate, GABA, and xanthine and L-theanine amino acids from green tea. At least 1 to 2 scoops 3 to 4 times a day. And then we have Spilkes, which is a Yiddish term we bring in from Germany. That's magnesium taurate and calcium taurate. And that is 2 capsules 3 times a day. We recommend anti-inflammatories, too, because oftentimes the muscle twitching is occurring with inflammation, which is unopposed calcium activity and inflammatory cytokines. And that's Inflamax. Yeah. And that's Inflamax 4 capsules twice a day. And then one of our most powerful new supplements is a new upgraded form of curcumin. Nobody else in the world does anything like it. It's called Cell Defense Plus, and this reverses precancerous cell changes, turns off inflammation, activates stem cells to regenerate tissue. It is probably one of the most amazing breakthroughs in nutraceutical development in the last 25 years. And that is Cell Defense Plus. It's a capsule where old technology was the Cell Defense tablets, also very high technology with bioperin, black pepper extract to increase absorption, because it's a very non-bioavailable supplement, but very powerful in terms of cancer, inflammation, stem cell regeneration, and turning off inflammatory cytokines. So it's amazing in terms of its protective effects. The next area that I often will deal with is conditions like multiple sclerosis. And a lot of time people will say, well, doc, just give me a few things to see if it'll stop. There's 5 different levels of multiple sclerosis in terms of how aggressive. They did a study about 30 years ago at Dublin Trinity College at Department of Neuropathology in Ireland, and what they discovered was that they did 3,000 random autopsies. About 5 to 10% of people actually had an MS lesion in their brain but didn't know they ever had a quote, an MS attack. So they must have had a single attack, never was in a motor area of their brain, and never recurred. So the first thing I recommend, number one, is be aggressive with MS. There's a new treatment developed at the University of Western Ontario, Canada, where they basically wipe out your immune system and then resurrect it. But it's also very dangerous because you can risk a person getting a serious infection that can kill them, or you can wipe out their immune system and it may not come back from a bone marrow transplant. So what I recommend is much more reasonable approach is Cell Defense Plus, 2 capsules 3 times a day. For MS, Neurogen, which is a docosahexaenoic acid for remyelination, along with Sphingolin, which is myelin basic protein, 4 capsules twice a day. Neurival, which helps to stop the MS fatigue because there's a chronic fatigue syndrome related to dopamine, and the Neurival will reverse that. Norepinephrine dopamine levels. And Cognition Plus, 2 capsules 2 to 3 times a day. Brain Power, which has been posting to stop oxidative stress, a capsule twice to 3 times a day. And for electrolytes, which is very important because the electrolyte imbalances are very sensitive for people with MS. If they're too hot, there's what's called a hot bath test, or if you do exercise or get exposed to heat, you get a rapid onset of fatigue or muscle weakness and control. And that would be the Sports Energy Light along with Brain Mag, at least 2 scoops 2 to 3 times a day. And to stop the oxidative stress that triggers off the MS, Cell Detox Glutathione and Nutri-Trala. These are extremely important to stop the free radicals. And to support your enzymes, you need Vitamin Mineral Max, Minerals Plus, and Selenium cruciferate. Very important because it appears that the free radical cytokines, along with the lymphocytes activated to attack the myelin sheath of the oligodendrocytes, the cells that make the myelin sheath in your nerves, by the ventricles are what's going on. To turn off the immune activation, we use high-dose Power C, Allergon, which is a histamine remover that also gets rid of interleukin-1 beta. And to literally suspend the immune system and the attack, we actually stop what's called a sugar cycle called the hexose monophosphate shunt with malignarest, the same protocol we use for cancer, believe it or not, works for autoimmune disease like MS. And to protect the tissues, we do DNA repair with ellagic acid block, and to kill off the pathogens because it's usually triggered off by stealth infection of spirochetes and other organisms, but spirochetes like ehrlichiosis, babesiosis, and Lyme. It turns out that Lyme is a major trigger for MS and anti-oligodendrocyte antibodies and activated lymphocytes. So Allicin Med, Nutridyne, and Silver 100. The dosage of Allicin Med, usually a capsule 3 times a day, Nutridyne 15 drops in water 3 times a day, and Silver 100 1 spray or 3 drops per 10 pounds body weight 3 times a day. And of course, very importantly, the most powerful antioxidant we have is my designed NutriDefense, which is anhydrous polyphenol. It also has the disruption components for all RNA and DNA viruses, and it also blocks the Fenton reaction that allows pathogens to enter tissues. So that's a pretty comprehensive. That's the next stage. The next phase beyond that is mild hyperbaric oxygen with ozone, at least 2 hours a day. You can even sleep overnight in the chamber if you get one of the larger chambers. And our program of advanced brain regenerative peptides, we have those from the Russian Academy of Sciences. As a physician, I can obtain those from the European Anti-Aging Society. And then finally, if someone is still having aggressive MS, we want full recovery, we can use Stemmetica stem cell transplant from the San Diego facility that's at the Santa Clarita facility in Tijuana, Mexico. So, there's many levels beyond it. So if you don't respond, for example, whether it's your blood pressure, your uric acid, your homocysteine, your symptoms of whatever, attention deficit disorder or MS or autoimmune condition, there's many levels that I can bump it up to. And there's also ways of testing to see if those levels are working or not, whether it's QRMA or functional medicine testing or imaging tests, etc., such as a T1-weighted MRI scan for MS. We can see if those myelinated lesions are reversing in size and healing, or whether they're expanding. So it's very possible to actually fix that problem. You don't need to assume that you're going to have to stay in a particular state. We can advance that dramatically. So that's important. One of the things I think that people should be aware of is that advanced functional medicine takes from the best of whatever is necessary with herbology, toxicology. For example, a lot of people that are have, for example, gutta percha from root canals. They're getting heavy metal poisoning can amplify virtually any autoimmune disease. They also may have difficulty with mercury if they had mercury amalgams, and you can't take them out too quickly. If you do, you've got to make sure you're detoxifying while you're doing so. Same with toxic chemicals, whether you're using infrared sauna or pulse magnetic fields such as lumen photon or micropulse. The micropulse is very good for pain control, for amplifying stem cells 400%. The lumen photon is one of my favorites because it's just pulse light, and you can't fiddle or go wrong. Frequency 6 and 7 for inflammation, frequency 3 for the skin and nervous system, frequency 4 for the internal organs of the body, and frequency 5 for glandular tissue. And those frequencies will tune into the specific organ type, like your thyroid gland, adrenal glands, etc., and try to amplify detoxification and healing and regeneration. So they are very, very effective. The kinds of issues that I deal with on a daily basis are really complex. And in fact, it's interesting, a lot of my so-called clients, online, health or wellness clients, are physicians themselves, doctors, chiropractors, naturopaths, DOs, specialists, dentists, etc. Recently had a dentist who had a serious health problem. And when you're trying to recover from cancer, for example, you want to be on a ketogenic diet with malignant arrest. And it will actually shut off the metabolism of the sugar for the cancer, starving it. You want to be on apoptogenic agents to actually make the cancer cell DNA repair or go back to normal, or force the cell to go through programmed cell death or apoptosis if it can't be repaired. And we have the ellagic acid, 2 capsules 3 times a day, at least 4 capsules 3 times a day. Malignant block, 2 to 4 capsules 3 times a day. Power C Plus, usually 9 to 12 capsules 3 times a day. And again, you can make this as a smoothie. Full vitamin K2, which is menaquinone 7, at least 1 full vitamin K2 for every 3 Power C. Malignant block, of course, which is sulforaphane glycosinolate, as well as the ellagic acid. Very good for apoptosis and the full vitamin K2. And then you want to, again, for recovery from, if this is, for example, a brain cancer or eye cancer or something like that, you want to do a rescue of the tissue using Brain Mag, at least 2 scoops 3 times a day, Cell Defense Plus for tissue rescue, and Myco D2, which is arkomycin. And then for the blocking the pathogens and resurrecting the immune system to attack the tumor, NutriDefense, 2 capsules 3 times a day, Amogus Supreme Krill to rebuild the soft tissues and the cell membranes, Cell Detox Glutathione, which gets rid of hydroperoxy radicals, especially in the central nervous system, if the person under oxidative stress from the tumor or from previous treatments, or let's say they had chemo or radiation, especially. Selenium cruciferate, which increases glutathione peroxidase activity, Vitamineral Max and Minerals Plus. And then, of course, further levels can be done based on gene-based off-label use of therapies to switch the gene specs through labs like the one in Cambridge, Massachusetts, that works with the ISOS clinic in Santa Barbara, or the clinic in Houston, Texas. Mild hyperbaric oxygen with ketogenic diet, and of course we have lymphocyte activation therapies, which are immune activation, where we actually take the blood and RNA of the tumor, analyze it, and produce a lymphocyte activated cell line that will attack the cancer, and then give that back to you. So there's all kinds of advanced treatments available here or in Europe, Germany, Mexico, South America, etc., that can help you to fight cancer, that are much more advanced and well supported by science. We have a lot of people that have gum disease, and we recommend that people use our bone generator, 3 to 6 capsules, a half hour to 45 minutes after the largest meal. Allicin Med to kill off the pathogens that goes through the biofilm, at least a capsule 3 times a day. The HydroFloss device with Nutridyne in the chamber, usually 30 drops in the chamber, and floss with HydroFloss after all meals and snacks. Nutridyne 15 drops in water 3 times a day, Gastro Heal, which is zinc carnosine, and CoQ10 ubiquinol, not just the regular CoQ10, but the ubiquinol. You puncture soft gel and hold in the gums at least 2 to 3 times a day. Micelle D3, important for the stem cells and tissues to heal, and full vitamin K2 for the enamel and the tooth regeneration, as well as Myco D2, which is the oncomycin, and vitamin D2, and ergothioneine, which is the first receptor activated when stem cells regenerate the tissue, for increasing collagen in the actual membranous bone, collagen max, and mountain red deer velvet for healing the bone tissue. And the recommended is NICO setting, NICO setting on lumen photon, to get rid of NICA, which is the cavitations and deep pockets around your teeth and gums. And if you do a repeat pan x-ray, you'll see the bone actually increasing in volume. Then you'll see reattachment of the sharp A fibers to the teeth, and you'll see the plaque and the pockets disappear. So it's a very effective protocol. We use it regularly with people, and I'm always upgrading the protocols to include new technology. Benign prostatic hypertrophy. Very common problem. We recommend, firstly, prostate flow. 2 capsules twice a day. Xenoestrogen detox to get rid of the xenotoxins that cause the prostate to swell. 1 capsule twice a day. Nutridefense, anhydrous catechin polyphenol. Research studies out of Japan shows no cancer of the prostate when you take it. The Cell Defense Plus, of course, to prevent cancer transformation. 2 capsules 2 to 3 times a day. Hormone synergy, and remember, you don't want to convert male hormone to female, which is why it's very bad to take other than Dr. Bill's specific nutraceuticals such as DHEA and pregnenolone, where your body converts what it needs and doesn't make excess, which will then convert to female. So the testosterone gels and the injectables are all dangerous because you'll convert the excess to female hormone, which causes the prostate to swell and can even cause probably cancer cell transformation, especially if there's what's called 16-hydroxyestrone adducts that can be formed by a synthetic conversion. So we want to kill off the pathogens of the prostate with allicin med and Nutridyne. And Men's Max will release male hormone from the sex hormone binding globulin, so you have normal hormone levels that your body's produced, but it's not bound to the protein. If the test to do for prostate is a free and combined PSA test, if the free and combined indicates it's not a benign enlargement but a more malignant, you do a transrectal ultrasound and needle biopsy with a pathologist reviewing it. I never recommend gold seed therapy, radiation. And if there is cancer, I recommend our nutraceuticals very first in all cases. And you can do gene-based cancer treatment with off-label use of drugs to reverse the genes that are activated in the cancer. So that's the approach we take to treat prostate problems and cancer, and that can make a huge difference in terms of what's going on for angina and heart pain. I recommend the Cardiovasc 15 drops, one capsule or 3 for a female, and 2 capsules to 3 capsules or 30 to 45 drops for a male. And Supernox, 1 tablet for a female, small female, and 2 to 3 tablets for a large female or a male. Omega Supreme Krill. The krill oil is remarkable. In fact, our krill is 2,000 micrograms of astaxanthin in each capsule, so it makes an amazing difference in terms of the health. And we have VascuCare, which is a propionyl L-carnitine to improve cardiovascular contractility of the heart muscle, along with CoQ10 Supreme, which is the only CoQ10 that doesn't polymerize or crystallize in the world. We have the best pharmaceutical-grade CoQ10 on the planet, and CoQ10 ubiquinol, which works in the nervous system and other solid organs, too, and is a reserve form for the body to convert back when it needs to. We also have Gamma A Plus to get rid of peroxynitrate and hydroperoxy radical, magnesium glycinate, which is the most biotolerated magnesium for the heart, and, of course, we use the things to protect the blood vessel walls, ellagic acid, Vein-Away, and nattokinase to reduce blood viscosity, which is often increased in people who are developing cardiovascular illness, as well as Calm Mind and Brain Mag to calm central nervous system. We'll be back in just a moment with the last segment. Then we're joining Tim Alexander. We'll be back in just a minute. Stay tuned. If you have questions on health issues, 800-313-9443. We'll be back. And Tim Alexander will be on in the third hour. He'll be actually taking care of the news updates alone. I'll be on my way, getting ready to head back to North County, San Diego. And so Tim will be handling everything. If you have questions, you can just drop me an email. Go to the top of NutriMedical.com. You'll see where you can request. And just contact us at the top of NutriMedical.com if you have any health issue. There's no charge, whether you're a regular customer or not. If it looks like it's complex, then I may recommend a consultation. Otherwise, even repeat requests or upgrading to a higher protocol, there's no charge for that. Now, our regular customers have access to the wellness conditions, and the gatekeepers, Michelle, even if you're a health professional, you don't get access unless you're regularly using the NutriMedical nutraceuticals exclusively. Yeah, I strongly recommend you don't second guess and try to run all over the place and be a Google genius, even if you've been in health professions for years, because you won't have the experience to know what to choose and the right level of products that are actually going to work. You don't want to buy something that has something on the label that says it's going to help. It has no biological activity or very little. So, again, all these services are provided because it's a ministry, so we want your support and we want your prayerful support as well as your support by getting your nutraceuticals exclusively from us. At NutriMedical.com is in place. We're providing you with free advice by email. If you're a regular customer, that means very regular, you will get a call back on any specific complex issues for yourself, your family, and relatives and friends. Now, a couple of new announcements. Tomorrow we hope to have Harley Schlanger back. He's been away a few weeks in Europe with major updates on what's going on in the European Union and Brexit. He'll be back on tomorrow, a day before Brexit occurs, which is the British leaving the European Union. We'll also be dealing probably with an update on what's going on with Janet Yellen and her visit with Congress today, and also the move toward what's going on in the party with Corey Lewandowski leaving the campaign for Donald Trump. I believe that the current leadership there, they're moving forward to try to move from a candidacy nomination into a presidential position. There's a number of revelations occurring with Hillary Clinton that are going to come forward, including this security officer that worked for them for 8 years that's coming forward this week with a number of TV and radio shows. We'll have some comments about what statements he's making. There's 8 movies coming up before Election Day about Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and their corrupt foundation and basically the State Department and U.S. government for sale. The amount of corruption is monumental. Anybody who tries to defend Hillary and says she's equivalent to Trump is delusional and not really facing reality. I don't expect Trump to be perfect, but he'll be more perfect if we continue to push and advise him through his colleagues, such as the foundations. I just got a request today for support monies for Trump, and he's going to match it with his own personal money. For every $1 you give him, he'll match it with $2. So I think it's important. We know that there's $2 billion in the kitty for electing Hillary. If she's not indicted, we have to do other things to try to make sure she doesn't get elected as president, because this will destroy this country and also put the world on a pathway toward thermonuclear war, destruction, and economic chaos, and not addressing issues such as climate change, which is occurring. Luckily, we were up in Portland here with that major heat wave that's passed on Sunday and Monday. But these climate change issues are major ones that need to be dealt with. We don't need to fluff it aside or make pseudoscience that's related to carbon dioxide. We want real solutions to real problems, and we want them to work, just like my son Matthew's report yesterday, which is excellent, and we'll be coming up probably with a paper on it. You can visit his website, MatthewDeagle.com. He provides a lot of services. He'll be on the show regularly to provide advice and analysis of a number of things, both personal and corporate, as well as business advice, and he can help you in many ways. So do visit his website and his show and television programs, which he's broadcasting himself. It's through his own Blueberry network as well. That's MatthewDeagle.com. Here at NutriMedical, in the last few weeks, we've expanded to our YouTube channel, our Vimeo channel, and a number of other